Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back again to Salesforce Apex Hours, and we are here in Salesforce Development Series 2024. So, my name is Amit Singh. I hope you remember me. And in the previous video, we talked about what are the pillars of OOPS concepts. We have also talked about how to create a very basic Apex class, and we have also talked about how to create the behaviors, that means method, and how to create the states, that means variables in Apex class. From now onwards, I'm going to refer variables and methods for states and behaviors. So please don't get confused between these two. So what we are going to talk about today is we are going to talk about what are the methods in Salesforce, what is the difference between static and non-static methods, and then we are going to talk about pass by value versus pass by reference. At the end, I will leave you with some of the assignments that we have. And before we go ahead, in the previous video, the last question was, what is the default value of any variable in Apex class? So the default value of any variable is null. If you don't assign anything, it is going to refer null as a default value. No matter it is a number field, it is a Boolean field, it is an object, it is a custom object, it is a class, every single variable is going to denote as null by default if you don't assign anything. Now let's start with methods. So what are the methods in Apex class? So we can say methods are nothing. Those are the methods are basically blocks, code blocks, which have some sort of instructions to execute certain tasks. So in Apex class, we will be creating multiple methods and we will be giving certain instruction which will be used to perform certain tasks. Methods can be used for calculating multiple complex calculation, for manipulating the data like creating or inserting, deleting, or updating the records in Salesforce, interacting with the external party like AWS, Zira, LinkedIn, or any kind of system. Every single thing we are going to do with the help of methods. So as we talked about, methods are nothing. These are the behavior an object is capable of doing, and that is what we are going to put here. So I'll just summarize it again quickly. A method is a code block which will have certain instruction given or written in it, and those methods will be used to perform certain tasks. For example, integrating with LinkedIn, making a social media post, or integrating with Workday for creating an employee in Workday, integration with Stripe, interacting with Salesforce standard or custom object like creating a record, deleting a record, updating a record, or maybe querying a record. Every single thing will be done with the help of methods. Now, here is the structure of our methods. Again, as we talked about, the very basic in the previous video, access modifier, return type, the name of your method, and then optional parameters, opening and closing curly braces, and between opening and closing curly braces, there would be a body, the method body, and based on your return type, there would be an optional return statement. So this is basically high level structure of a method with the help of access modifier, return type, method name, and all those things. Let's actually break down these information so that you can understood it in a more better way. So the first thing that we talked about was access modifier for a method. So access modifier is basically going to define the visibility of the method. What is the visibility of a method? Is it going to be visible within the class itself? Is it going to be visible outside of the class? Or is it going to be visible outside of Salesforce org? Depending on your requirement, you are going to provide the access modifier to a method. By default, private is going to be access modifier. How it impacts, what happens, we are going to see in the demo. Then there was a return type. Return type is basically what that method is going to return. To whom? To operating system. Okay, it's not going to return to me. It is going to return to operating system. So what is going to be returned? It's not necessary that every method will have a return type. It depends on what kind of calculation you are doing, it will have a return type. For example, if I say that, okay, write a method to do the sum of two variables, do the sum of two numbers. So what you will do is you'll write a method, you'll say, okay, if I give you the two numbers, 2 and 3, you will say the sum of two number is 5. So what you are doing is you are giving me something in return. In that case, there will be a return type. You are giving me something in return. That is where it is going to, and like the return type is going to be applicable. And if I say, okay, do the sum of these two numbers and don't tell me what is the sum, just keep it to your own. Then there is no need of return type because you just need to accept the numbers, do the sum, and you are done. You don't need to do anything. In that case, you don't need to have any return type. Now here is an example, like calculating the sum. That's what we have just talked about. And integer is a return type because the outcome of this method will be integer. How we will see in the demo, so you will understand more and more. Method name we have already talked about. Method name should be a valid name basically. For example, calculate sum, add, print message, insert record, post to LinkedIn. This is the name of your method, like walk or sleep, transaction, debit, all these are the method names. Then there is a parameter list. Parameter list is basically nothing, the information that you are passing to that method in order to perform the specific task. For example, if I say add the two numbers, does it make sense? Does it make sense? I don't think so. Because I'm saying add the two numbers, I'm not telling you what two numbers you need to add. You can add any two numbers, right? And that doesn't make sense because I want you to add the two numbers which I give you. So in that case, you will pass the parameters. And if I say hello, you will just say hello. There is nothing to accept as a parameter. So it depends on the need. Do you really want to give more information to your method to act upon to perform a specific task or to complete a specific task? Then you will use parameter list. If you don't really need to give any additional information to your method, don't need to worry about that. Don't need to give the parameters. Okay. And then in the last, we talked about, like not last, the second last is method body. Now, we talked about the access modifier, we talked about return type, we talked about method name. Now we are talking about the body, right? Like we also talked about the parameters. We talked about method name, we talked about return type, we talked about access modifier. So here in this example, public is an access modifier, void is a return type. So if your method is not returning anything, it is going to be void. Display info is the name of your method. These are the parameters that the method is accepting in order to perform certain tasks, in order to complete certain tasks. And this is the body. What we are doing is we're just debugging. We are using a debug statement, printing it in the console, that's it. Now you might wanted to take this information, store it somewhere in a custom object, store it somewhere in a custom setting. You can do much more. But as of now, this method is just responsible for printing the information about a person, and that's it. And then return statement, as we have already talked about, I think we already talked about, no. Return statement is again a new line here that will be added here. So if your method is returning, as we talked about, if your method is returning, you have to write a return statement. For example, this is the method for adding the numbers, which takes two number integer a and b, and then it returns the sum of these two numbers. It returns the sum of these two numbers. Very important thing is that you cannot write any further statement after you have reached to return statement. If you have returned from this statement, if you have reached to this particular statement in any method, you cannot write any further lines in the method. You will see that in the demo. Now, the reason is that what this return says, let's talk about that in the demo. Don't uh, don't basically focus much here. So what is next? This is example. This is a class, example class. We have some of the methods which are actually taking some of the parameters, and that is what we are actually going to implement with the help of this example. And then we are going to talk about the next concept that we have. So let's get back to your Salesforce org, log in if you have not logged in, and as usual, follow along with me. Pause the video, type whatever I'm typing, understand it, not getting, put the comment, ask the question, but please let's get the hands dirty together. I'm already logged in here in the previous, whatever we have done in the previous video, that is still open. I'm already logged in into my Salesforce org. So as we have seen, we are going to work around, not work around, play around with the methods that we have. So let's go ahead and create a new class. I'm going to name that class as example class. That's my favorite class name whenever I'm showing the examples. Okay. Now, what we are going to have is we are going to see both the methods. The method which is returning hello, and the method, I'm not sorry, the method which is returning something, and the method which is not returning anything. Okay. So let me say, if we meet somewhere and I say, hey, hello, good morning, what would be your response? In 99% of the cases, your response would be good morning in return, right? And if we know the name of each other, I would say, let's say, good morning, Amit. You'll say, good morning, Amit. Or maybe I will say, good morning, John. You will say, good morning, Amit, right? So I am basically saying good morning, and you're saying me good morning. We are greeting each other, right? So let's write a method called public. By default, let's write the return type as void, and we'll say greetings. And that's it. This is our simple method. We have already seen, right? Now what we talked about, when I will say good morning, you will also say good morning, right? That means we are going to write a return statement. And if your return is a keyword, so if you write it correctly, it is going to change the color. No matter what theme you are using, it is going to change the color. Okay. And what you are going to return here is, you'll say, hello, good morning. And I'm going to add Apex hours because we are here in Apex hours, and because of Apex hours, we are learning this. So I'm just returning here a very important point. If you are from a Java background, in Java, we usually use double quotes to denote the string, right? Whatever we want to put inside a string as a static value, we use double quotes. But in Salesforce, we use single quotes. That is the key difference we need to understand. Now we have written something, but we are still getting the error. You're still getting error, right? And what is that error? To see the error, you will see on the bottom, there is something on problems. And if you click on this problem, and let me give it a zoom, it says void method must not return a value. What we talked about? Void method will never return anything. Void method will never return anything. So here we are trying to return something. What is the type of this message? Is it text, number, integer, or it is object? What it is? What is the type of this text? The type of this text is a string. So the return type must be a string. This is again a very important thing we need to understand. If the return type is of type string, it should be a string. And let's say if I say integer, you will see there is a star sign which says the method is not saved. And after some time, or if I try to save this class, I'll get this error which says illegal conversion from string to integer. From string to integer. What it says, you are trying to return a string, but the method, whatever the signature that you have added for method, which is integer. You cannot return a string for a method with the return type integer. So you have to say string, right? That is what the return type is. Very important. The return, whatever you are returning, it should match exactly with whatever your data type is, or you change the data type accordingly. That is one thing. Next thing that we talked about, this return keyword. As soon as this line number 4 executes, this whole method is going to be dead. That means the compiler will return immediately from this line and it cannot reach to the next line. If you write something, let's say if I'm saying a string name equal to, let's say I'm saying Amit Singh, and you will see there would be an error in the problem section and we will get that error and it will say unreachable statement something, unreachable statement as we talked about, right? So we cannot write anything after return statement, and we have seen this. But what if I say we can write something after return statement? You will say, Amit, what are you saying? It's there in front of us and we cannot write anything. You'll definitely say, right? So the answer is comments. We can write comments after return statement if I use double forward slash. Not sure if these are forward slash or backward slash. Whatever it is, just uh, you know what I'm saying, right? If we use forward slash and put like this, I can write ample number of comments after a return statement. Not something related to interview, but something good to know. Okay, this is a method that we have got. Now, how to invoke this method? How to call this method? We cannot call the method directly. We cannot call the method directly. We have to take help from our class. And that what help we will take? We will take the help from our class to create an object. To create an object. So let's go ahead, go to debug, open execute anonymous window, and create an object of our class. Okay, we just created an object. How to call this? How to call this? Um, yeah, how to call this method? Very simple, very simple. The object variable name, dot the method name, and that's it. That's it. The object name dot method name. Let's go ahead and execute it. We executed, the anonymous window got opened, and this is, don't worry about this, we don't need to read, and let's close this. But what happened is this method greetings is returning something and the return type is a string. So if I need to know what a method is returning, we need to know what is the return type of that method. You get that method return type, put it here, and use any variable, let's say greeting message. Use any variable and let's say greeting message. And then you have to just use system.debug statement if you want it to see, you want it to print, and print it here, execute it. So you will see you have got hello, good morning, Apex hours, right? So that means our method is getting called, our method body is actually getting executed, whatever we are doing. Let's say if I put a system.debug statement here, and if I say, I am going to return a greeting message. Okay, this is what I'm going to return. Let's save the class. Now the class is saved. If we run this now, this particular line number 4 is also going to get executed. It will debug, and then line number 4 in our class, in our execute anonymous window, is going to be printed. If we execute this, you will see here we have got hello, good morning, Apex hours. I am going to return a greeting message. This is basically a message. This is basically how we call a method. Now let me take it to a further extent. Okay, you have some variables. Let's say you're creating a variable called string name equal to, by default, I'm giving it as Amit Singh. Okay, integer a is equal to 30, and we save it. I have not saved the class, but what is the default access modifier of any variable or any property? What is that? Private. Yes, we have learned this in previous session. Now let's say, okay, now I have used a shortcut that is Control plus E or Command plus E, depending on using Windows or Mac. Okay, so now let's say you wanted to access this variable after creating the object somewhere here. You wanted to assign a different name. You wanted to assign a different name like Amit Chaudhary, Jitendra Jha, or Mohit Srivastava, or anything, any other name, right? So how you will access this variable? How you will access this variable? Very simple, as usual, like we did for a method. We will say the object name dot the method name. Object name dot the method name. And let's say I'm saying Amit Chaudhary. Okay. And I'm saying simple dot age. Okay. 34. And that's it. Now, as the default access modifier is private, understood this, and keep this in mind. As the default access modifier is private, what will happen if we execute this code? If you have got the understanding of these access modifiers from the very first class, which Zigger took, okay? The class was taken by Zigger. If you have taken that class, you would know what will happen. If not, it will throw an error. This line is going to throw an error, and these lines are not going to get executed. Let me show you how. If you click on execute, you see here what it says. Variable is not visible. Variable is not visible. This is the error, line number 2, column 8. And if you see, you are trying to do in line number 2 itself. Okay. Why it says variable is not visible? Because the access modifier private says that you can only access this variable inside the class itself, not outside the class. So this is your class. You can access these details inside the class itself. These two variables inside the class itself cannot access after you have created an object. Now, if I comment out these two lines, and close this tab, and let's say we are saying here, now I need to access this name variable inside greeting. So all you need to do is just say name equal to, and I'm going to say Amit Chaudhary, and I'll say is equal to 34. If I do this here, it will work because this method is inside the class itself. And then now I can say hello, and here I will do the string concatenation, and I'll say hello Amit Chaudhary, and we will say here Thanks for the awesome series on Salesforce development. Okay, so we're going to say hello. Amit Chaudhary. Thanks for the awesome series on Salesforce development. Now, if we go ahead and use Control E or Command E to open the anonymous window and hit execute button while making sure this open log checkbox is checked. So the code is still saying error. Okay, why? Because we have not commented out line number 2 and 3. Let's comment out and execute. So the code is executed, logs are opened to see your system.debug statement. Note this point, system.debug statement, to see that you need to check this checkbox called open debug, and you will see the debug here. You will see the debug here. What it says, I am going to return a greeting message. That is a debug statement. Line number 6, below that it says, hello, Amit Chaudhary. Thanks for the awesome series on Salesforce development. Why I'm thanking Amit Chaudhary? Because Apex Hours is maintained by him and he's my guru. Okay, so coming back to the class again. You got it right? Every single line executed inside the method. That is what method body is. Method body will be inside the blocks. The blocks are denoted with these curly braces. You can put everything there, do the calculation, call another method, make the changes into the variables, call the callouts, do anything. And then at the end, either return or do not return. Okay. Now let's say, like, we hardly speak. Okay, and you are angry with something or you are angry with me, and if I meet you and I say, hey, good morning, and you will say, and you will not speak anything, you're not giving me any response in return. In that case, what will happen? You'll say, okay, public, and you are not returning anything, the return type will be void, and we will say greet message. This is a method name, because there could not be two methods with the same name until unless I tell you the trick. And that trick I'll tell you in coming videos. So, and you are not telling anything. You're not returning anything. You just, let's say you're just changing the name here, where you say Jitendra Jha. Okay, I don't know his age. I'll just say 45. Okay. So you're saying greet message. You say Jitendra Jha, and let's say print the debug statement here. Okay. We will say name is, with the help of a plus sign, access the name variable. And then similarly, say age is, and access the, and then age, right? And then save it. So this is a method. You are really angry with me. I say, good morning. You say, I don't want to talk to you. Okay. So you're not saying anything to me. You're not returning anything to me. That is where this void comes into the picture. We are not returning anything. We are not returning anything. Okay. That is the difference between having a return type and a difference with not having a return type. Now, there could be, I just shown you a very basic thing which says a string as a return type. The return type could be as complex as a map collection. The return type could be as complex as a custom clause, a standard clause, the list of an object, list of classes, list of anything. It could be any single thing. It could be permission set. It could be permission set assignment. You could return anything which is available inside your Salesforce org. Okay. And let me tell you, my friend, these methods are really, really important. So go ahead, practice as much as you can. You will, right? Just put into the comment section that yes, you will. Okay. Now, now coming back here, and you're really enjoying. If you're enjoying, please give it a like. Also subscribe the channel. Now let me tell you, there was one more example that we taken is adding the numbers. taken is adding the number, right? So not number, could be anything, adding a number or displaying the info, it could be anything. So let's create a method. It'll say public integer add numbers. Okay. Now you have to return something because without returning, your return type is not going to satisfy. Now what you are going to return if you don't have anything as of now in this method? So if you don't have anything to return, let's write a return statement here and return null until unless you have finished the method, you have finished writing the method. Let's return null value. Okay, we're returning null here. So we have returned a null value. Now what we need to do is we need to finish writing the method and then return the appropriate thing. Now as we talked, as if I talk about, hey, add the numbers, okay, you will say give me the two numbers or three numbers. So I'll say, okay, integer a comma integer b. Now inside the method, whenever you are accepting parameters, you need to tell what kind of value you are accepting and what is the name of that variable, name of that parameter, not variable. It is a parameter. Okay. Tell me the data type and what kind of parameter you are, what is the name of that parameter. It could be something like this: string name, integer is as well. The data type could be of any type. That's what I wanted to show. It's not limited to the same kind of data type. It could be anything: string, integer, account, contact, custom object, standard object, a class, anything. It could be anything, literally anything. Okay. Now what you need to do is now you need to say return A plus B. That's what you need to do. Now you have returned. Again, the return type that you are returning or the return type of the result that you are returning should be matching with the return type of your method. Now, if you wanted to call this, you'll go ahead again. I'm going to remove these methods I really don't need. So I'll say simple dot, and what is this? Add numbers. Simple dot add numbers, right? Now, if you try to execute this, do you think it is going to work perfectly fine? Let's try to execute. And we got the error. The error says method does not exist or incorrect signature. But we know that the method exists. But it says does not exist or incorrect signature. We need to focus on the both the things, whatever the error is coming. Method does not exist or incorrect signature. That means either the method is not there. If the method is there, that we know that it is there, that means the signature is incorrect. What is the signature of this method? It says give me two arguments, give me two arguments, type of integer, each type of integer. So I'm going to say, okay, let me give you two arguments. Now when you pass the pass the values to a method, these are known as arguments. When you pass the values to a method, these are known as arguments. When you define the parameters, when you define the variables inside the moon brackets in your method, those are known as parameters. The two different things. Very basic example, very important to know. Okay. Now, you know that this method returns something. What it does return? It returns integer. Where you want to store, you'll say sum. Use an assignment operator so that anything that is there on the right, that will get calculated and then will be assigned on the left. Okay. Now, if we go ahead and say, okay, let's debug whatever the sum is, you can say the sum of two numbers, the sum of two numbers. Okay. And you will say, let's say sum of two number 10 and 23 is, and you'll say sum. And don't forget to use a terminator statement that is semicolon. And let's execute now. And if we execute it now, our anonymous window will open the execute logs if we have checked that checkbox. And if we click on debug only, we will see it says the sum of two numbers 10 and 23 is 33, which is correct, right? So we are able to call the method which is accepting the parameters, and we are able to do the testing. You can do the testing by passing n number of parameters. You can even access these variables inside this method as well. Okay, so that is all about methods with parameter and without parameter. Method with return type and without return type. Go ahead. If you have not followed me along with this, please pause the video here. I highly recommend. Please pause the video here, do all this, and then come back, resume the video, pause the next set of whatever we have coming in this video. So I hope you have enjoyed working with methods. And let's talk about the next thing, that is the next concept, types of methods in Salesforce. Yes, you heard it. There are two different types of methods, which are instance method or object methods, and which are static methods or class methods. Similarly, there are two types of variables, instance variables or object variables, static methods or class methods. Sorry, static variables or class variables. Instance methods are associated with a specific instance, with a specific object, and static methods or static variables are associated with a specific class, and the way of invoking the methods, the way of calling these methods is completely different. Okay, and let me tell you, you have already covered instance method. Yes, whatever you have learned previously, that is instance method, because we have created an object, and that object is nothing, is an instance, and then with the help of instance we were calling the methods. All we need to learn is static methods, and that's what is remembering, that what is missing here. So here is a difference between static versus instance methods and variables, that you can go ahead. Understood this? Let me read out it for you. Static methods are associated with the Apex class. So every time, anytime you invoke the class, all these methods and variable will be ready to use. As soon as you create, even if you create the object of a class, the static variables and method will be ready to use. These static methods and variables are only allowed in the outer class. Very important point. You cannot create inside the inner class. Okay. And the third point we have already talked about. And the fourth point is static methods and variables doesn't take part in the view state of any Visual Force page. However, on the other hand, if we talk about instance method, these are associated with the instance, can be defined in both outer and inner class. And every time there is a new object created, a new set of methods and variables will become available. So if you create two objects of a same class, there would be two different locations for that object, and the objects and variables will be different for each object. Okay, let's do the example. Let's do the hands-on again here. So as we talked about, these are nothing. These are the instance variables. These are the these are the instance methods, and these are the instance variables. We have created an object here. We could create multiple objects, and as many times you create the multiple objects, the methods and variables will be separately available for each object, and these will eat, or these will take extra space in heap memory. Okay. Now, How we can create a static variable or static method? How we can do that? Very simple. Every single concept is same whatever we have learned. That is the good news because you don't need to digest much. Every single concept, whatever we have learned is same. All is difference is one simple small keyword, and that keyword name is static. How you write is public static, the return type of your method, let's say void, and you say hello. And this is my friend an static method. Do you see? Every single thing is same. Every single thing is same. What you did is you just added one static keyword before your return type, and that's it. This is amazing, isn't it, right? We just added a keyword and we said, hey, this is a class method. Similarly, if I say, let's say if I say here, static string address, and I say 123 Main Street, and this is my friend static variable. Okay, so you might have seen that meme in the combi that says, so that this is basically static variable. Okay, now very important points here that we need to see: how to invoke an static variable and a method, and some more important concepts. So let's say we are saying, we are going to say system.debug, and we are going to say hello Apex hours. That's what we are going to say. And we are also going to congratulate, or that's fine. Hello Apex hours. That's what. Now, if you need to call this method, how you are going to call? So let's say you wanted to call this method called say hello, okay? And which does nothing. It just prints hello Apex hours. So as we said, any static method or variable are associated with the class. So you have to say the name of your class, dot notation, and the name of your variable or method. The name of your variable or method, and this is how you are going to invoke any Apex class or any Apex method. Okay. Sorry, any Apex method or any Apex variable. Let me tell you or show you how you call the Apex variable as well. So the variable name is address. Okay. So we got example class dot address, and this is a static variable. So we don't need to create the object, the instance of our class, and we are done. We did not do anything. We're done. And if we go ahead and execute it, it says variable is not visible. What it says? Variable is not visible. Which variable is? Address. Why it's not visible? Do you know? Yes, because it should be public in nature. By default, it is private. By default, it is private. Now, if you say, if you execute now after saving the class, you will see here a good thing that you got hello Apex hours and 123 Main Street. Woohoo! So this is how you basically invoke an Apex static method and static variable. Next set of things that we need to know is, if I make this method as private, or if I don't add any access modifier, it is by default private. So if I make it as private and try to execute it now, this time we will say method is not visible. Method is there, but it is not visible, right? I just wanted to show you. And that is how you just go and play around with the different combinations. Then only you will have your basics clear. And my friend, this is really important for you to have or get your basics clear. Okay. Next thing that I wanted to tell you is that An static method cannot call a non-static method. So this is a static method. Okay, I'm going to say static method, and below one is a non-static method. And this static method cannot call a non-static method. How you are going to call this method inside this method is nothing. You do whenever you need to call a method of a class inside the same class, another method, you don't need to create the object. All you need to do is just use the name of your method and pass the necessary arguments if there are any, and save your class. That's it. You don't need to create an object. You don't need to do class name dot something. Now here, as I said, an static method cannot call a non-static method. An static method cannot refer a non-static variable. These are the 2 points that we really need to make sure we keep in our mind. So please keep this, take a note, write it down. Static method cannot call a non-static method. Static method cannot call, cannot use a non-static variable. Take a note. This is really important for us. Okay. And on the other hand, if I comment it, and on the other hand, if I call this static method from a non-static method, it will be possible. It will be possible. So if you call an static method from a non-static method, that is possible. Make a note as well. Make a note of this as well. You can call a static method from a non-static method. You can refer a static variable from a non-static variable. So this is what we had as part of static versus non-static methods, class versus object methods in Salesforce. Here comes the next concept. If it is like you think that, okay, it's becoming more, please pause the video, take some coffee from this screen itself, okay? And then uh, have that coffee or tea. After 5 or 10 minutes, come back and make sure you come back. That's the key thing here. Make sure you come back, okay? Let's talk about the concept of pass by value versus pass by reference, the last concept of the video, and then we'll talk about the assignments, okay? So what is pass by value and what is pass by reference? So basically, pass by value and pass by reference is the concept or mechanism of passing the arguments to a function or to a method inside these methods, okay? Inside these methods. Inside any method, it could be static, it could be non-static. How you are passing the value is really important for us to know what is passed by value and what is passed by reference. So if you see this image I have taken from the internet, so it's not the Apex Hours copyright, okay? So what says on the right hand side, you see it says pass by value. So I said cup, there was a variable called cup, and then there was a method called fill cup, which accepts an argument called that cup. Okay, that cup is an argument that accepts. So if I fill the cup inside this method, this cup is not getting filled. This is pass by value. What does it mean is, if I have a variable and if I pass that variable to another method and the value of that variable is getting changed inside that method, this variable is not going to get impacted. This variable is not going to get impacted. No impact. On the other hand, pass by reference says, if you have a variable, you pass it to a method, and if the value of that method, if the value of that variable is changed, any modification has happened on top of that variable, this variable itself will get changed. That is what pass by reference is. Pass by value says, we say, okay, I call you with the name says Amit Singh. That is a pass by value. And if I say any senior developer in the room come with me. That is pass by reference, because a person who is junior developer today will become a senior developer tomorrow. That is a pass by reference. I'm just taking a reference of senior developer. I'm saying, hey, any senior developer here, come with me. Or if I say, hey, Amit Singh, come with me. So I'm giving a value which says, Amit, come with me. Or I'm saying, hey, any senior developer, come with me. So this is the difference between pass by value and pass by reference. We will see in a demo. You will be amazed by seeing the demo. Pass by value is mostly applicable in case of primitive data types. Assuming you know primitive data types after watching the very first video. Primitive data types like integer, string, boolean, number, decimal, long, any data type which have its own value only, that can store only one value. Okay. So it is only applicable for primitive data types. Changing the variable value inside a method is not going to affect the actual or the original variable which is available outside the method. So here is the example. We have a method which returns nothing. We say modify value that accepts an integer. And here we are modifying the value. We say x equal to x plus 1. And it would be whatever the value of x we get, it says x plus 1 and it will populate. So what we say, output 5, original value changed here. I'm sorry, it should be output 6. Sorry, it should be output 6, not 5. Because we are passing 5, we are passing 5 in the method. So 5 plus 1 equal to 6, and the 6 will be printed. And as soon as we print the value outside the method, once the method call happened, it says output 5, original value unchanged. The value will not be changed because we are passing by reference. Let's see that in an example. So let me tell you another trick, my friend. You can write the whole method inside this execute anonymous window. You don't need to write a class, method. You can write whole method inside anonymous window. And that's what I'm going to do. As shown in the example, I'll say modify number. And let's say we are going to say integer. I'm going to replicate exact whatever it was there, x plus 1. And I'll say system.debug x. Okay. And here we'll create an integer variable called integer num equal to 5. And we'll call that method, which is modify number, that takes the argument called num and print the num here. So the output of this should be 6 and the output of this should be 5 because it is a primitive data type. Because it is a primitive data type. Okay. And if I execute it, you will see the same thing. Oh, okay. It says error. It should be num. Let's execute it. And you will see here debug only. And ooh, we got it. At first place, it is 6. At second place, it is 5. And that is what pass by value is. Now, this, so anywhere you're passing a primitive data type, that is pass by value. You change the value inside that method, nothing will happen. The value will be remaining original outside the method of that variable. Second is pass by reference, which is non-primitive data types, which is non-primitive data types, and the last topic of the video as well. So if you have any non-primitive data types, such as collection of objects, it could be custom, standard, string, integer, it could be any non-primitive data type. So if you're passing any non-primitive data type to a method, that if we change the variable inside the method, the variable will get impacted outside the method as well. The original value will be modified. So if you see here, this is a simple example. Modify list is a method which accepts the list of integer. We add another value called 42. and we print it here, we will say output original list modified. And this was our original list, which accepts 1, 2, 3 as a parameter. And if we print this list after even the method is called, the value will be modified. And this is helpful for us whenever we have some collection and we pass that collection to a method and we say, based on whatever you have, modify this method, either add more elements which we need later on or delete more elements. Delete whatever elements is not needed. So it's helpful for us to use pass by reference. Okay. Now, if you go ahead and you say here, okay, we are going to again say modify list. The same thing, okay. This time we are going to accept list of integer and I'll say my list. And in this list, we are going to add some value called, could be anything. And let's print here, let's say debug, system.debug, and this is our list. Now, to call this method, this is very simple. We call this method with the name of our method, like we call that method inside our Apex class. And then it accepts an argument, right? And that argument is type of list. So we need to create a list here. We'll say list, and let's say numbers, new list, that is of integer. And I'm going to do something here. I'm assigning some values, okay? And passing this in the method. If you don't know the list, how it works, what is the concepts and all, please don't worry. You will be covered with all these concepts. You will be knowing what are all the connections, collections and all. If you don't know, don't worry about that, okay? To summarize, we created a method modify list, which accepts a parameter of list of integer. The name is my list. And whatever we get in the list, we are adding a new element called 423. Then we are debugging a list. And then outside of this method, we have prepared a list of integer with having 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 as a default value. Then we are calling the method and again printing the information about that list. So let's go ahead and execute it. And let's check this checkbox debug only. You will see the response at both the places is same. And that is what call by reference or pass by reference is. So that's how your call by reference and pass by reference works. So basically, for non-primitive data types, the pass by reference, call by reference will work. Any value, any variable that you are passing to a method, if that gets modified inside a method, the original value will get modified. In case of primitive data types, if you are passing a value inside a method with the help of a primitive data types, and somehow the value that is getting modified inside the method, original value will remain unchanged. That is the key difference between pass by value and pass by reference. With that, let's talk about my favorite part, assignments. Ta-da! Okay, so I'm not going to give you very hard or tough assignments. Pretty much easy, okay? Create an Apex class and give it a name as person. And that Apex class must need to have the variables which are listed here and all should be public variables, okay? Then create the following methods in your Apex class. Say print info, print the information about a person like name, age, and email. Get address, it returns the address of that person, whatever the address that you have. And then check age. This is again a method which is going to check the age of the person. And if the age is greater than 60, it will return old age, else it will return less than 60. That is what you have to create. 3 different methods, 5 or 6 properties. Please uh, Play around with both static and non-static variables. Try different combination. Let me know what is the thing that you love, what is the thing that you hate, which combination worked for you, which one did not work for you. Go ahead and try around with this. And with this, again, I'll say thank you so much. Go ahead, follow Apex Hours all over the social media. Do a tweet that you're learning with Apex Hours. Go ahead and don't forget to press that bell icon ting to get the latest updates from Apex Hours. With this, I am Amit Singh, sign off with the video of methods in Salesforce.